Welcome back to another episode of Magical Insight with Luke Hillis, broadcasting from Fairfield, Iowa. This is a show about insights and perspectives and tools and practices for expanding fulfillment of life. And the topic of today has to do with enlightenment, and interestingly enough, why, in my view, the actual focus on enlightenment itself can be overdone in a way that's actually not conducive for fulfilling enlightenment, or more importantly, for the ultimate goal, I would say, of expanding one's fulfillment, or expanding one's happiness, or joyousness, or completeness. So basically, here's where I'm going with this. It needs a little bit of backstory. I'm from a spiritual community that very much values meditation and practices that support clear experience in meditation, like getting good rest and eating good food, and all kinds of other very good things that are, for cultivating enlightenment, but also just for cultivating having a good day. Like, if I meditate at the start of a day, I'm going to have a better day than if I don't meditate at the start of the day, let alone any long-term achievement of enlightenment. And if you don't have a definition of enlightenment, for a really basic, simple version of it, it's where a person has come to a greater realization of themselves and the world in a way that spawns much greater joy and completeness and success and other qualities. It's a very simple version of it, but it's the essence, I think. So basically, I'm in this community, I grew up in this community where we talk about enlightenment a lot. And we keep that in mind as a goal and as something to strive for and something to really work for, which is great. I mean, hey, if you're going to spend your life working for something, rather than trying to build a huge company necessarily, why don't you try to, gain complete fulfillment of life? That's a great point of focus. But part of the reality is that the development of enlightenment seems to be going slower in our community than we had expected. I'll use myself as an example. So I learned to meditate 20 years ago, and I've mostly been meditating consistently for 20 years. And I've lived not a perfect lifestyle, but quite a healthy one, and certainly by modern standards at the very, top of what anyone would expect in American or really most anyone to do in terms of my sleep, in terms of my diet. And basically, as a result of all of that, I am a joyous, abundant, confident, happy, successful person, if I may say so myself, which is great. And I feel like I experience qualities of what I understand enlightenment to be, but I would not say that I'm enlightened. I don't feel that I can claim that. I don't see the signs or the experiences of that as I understand them, such to say that I'm enlightened. I've been doing this for 20 years, and I did it from the beginning. I've never been deep into drugs or alcohol or any other really destructive practices. I mean, when you get into a certain, out of balance with them, not trying to condemn those things, just I think a lot of people take them too far. So I've never, hardly used those at all. So in terms of the purity of my physical nervous system, it's, top notch, again, if I may say so myself. And so if someone can start all of these practices when they're 10 and can live such a pure lifestyle and still not have, hit the goal by the time they're 30, what hope does somebody have who starts the process at 30 after they've been trashing their nervous system with, too much alcohol and too many drugs and too much bad food and like a violent upbringing and all these things that I didn't have to go through. I'm really blessed. So anyway, basically what I run into with myself and with other people that I know in this community is that a lot of people are frustrated that they don't feel like they're there. It's like, well, I've been doing it for 20 years, which is 2/3 of my life, but a lot of people have been doing it for 50 years. They started in their 20s, and now they're in their 60s or 70s, And they still don't feel like they're there. They don't feel like it hasn't been worth it, because all these practices have an impact on the day that you do them, as well as a cumulative impact, and they're all much more enlightened than they were, every year before, or even every month before, potentially. That's how I feel. So, where was I going? So, it's not to say that hasn't been worth it, but the pain comes in because that person, I'll go back to thinking of myself, starts feeling frustrated, like, why am I not getting enlightened? Why am I not enlightened yet? Or why is it taking so long? When is this going to happen? And it's the sense of failure around an achievement. Like, why have I failed to achieve enlightenment? I've been doing everything right. I've been doing what I've supposed to have been doing. Or did I do enough? Oh, I missed, those bedtimes. I ate those potato chips. I missed my meditation on these days. I didn't do this practice enough. These kinds of, thoughts of guilt or shame start coming up very routinely. I'm very familiar with them myself, and I'm very familiar with them in the people that I know in the community. And so basically, what I'm offering here is to not focus on the development of enlightenment per se. Not to forget that, but to focus on the expansion of happiness, on the expansion of fulfillment, on the expansion of completeness. Because that's something that's really within our daily control. It's like, okay, I go on this walk every morning, and it expands my happiness for the day. I meditate, and it expands my happiness for the day. I go to bed early the night before. It expands my happiness, my success for the day. If I sit down and do some, spiritual type breathing practice, it expands my happiness for the day. I go and spend loving time with my family. It expands my happiness for the day, even beyond the day. And not just the day. These things have an impact on the day. They also have an impact on the future days. Because every time you do something, it transforms you in some way. And that transformation stays, and builds. Like building a building. Every time you put down the brick, the next brick can go on top of the last one, so you have a taller structure. So what I'm offering is to not judge oneself of where they are in developing enlightenment, but just focus on the expansion of happiness, and not be worried about, if I get enlightened or not by the end of my life. Who cares if I had a happy life? That's my perspective anyways. Because it just seems like, in my experience, I found more suffering through the focus on enlightenment than I have through the focus on just being my fullest, happiest self. Okay. So basically, I'll reiterate again. The idea here is that you might find that you can live a fuller, happier life by just having your focus be on expanding that fullness and happiness instead of on enlightenment, which is a little bit more abstract and can become an achievement kind of thing. And I would just recommend let go of attachment to becoming enlightened. But you use that energy for expanding your fulfillment. So I'm not saying let go of your practices or let go of your focus, but I would recommend to just focus on your own expansion of fullness and not really worry about where you are on the ultimate path, because we've got one life to live, and ultimately, as the spiritual teacher that I come from here says, the purpose of life is the expansion of happiness. So you could say then that the purpose of enlightenment is the expansion of happiness, which I would agree with. So just focus on the total goal and use the same practices, but a little bit of a different focus might feel more comfortable in the journey. So this is Luke Hillis in Fairfield, Iowa, broadcasting with Magical Insight. And subscribe, share, comment. I look forward to hearing from you soon.